All right, let's talk about the differences in B2C and B2B in the high ticket space and how you should be able to tell what you should actually sell. Obviously, when it comes to the high ticket space, we have two main demographics that we target. We have B2C and we have B2B. So B2C is B to consumer, so B to customer, and business to business. So with B2C, what you're going to come to find is they make very emotional decisions. So when you're selling B2C, so B2C, for example, would be a trading course. So trading, or let's say, for example, e-com, anything where it's one person, or maybe it's brothers or whatever, right? But it's one person who is getting the benefit. So it's a one-to-one mentorship, or it's helping one person. The reason this is emotional, right, is because we're playing on their dreams. So they want to get to 10K a month, right? They want to retire their parents. So they want to retire their mum. And what you end up doing is you end up having to create a huge gap between their pain and where they want to get to. So when you're selling B2C, it's all about the conversation that you have. It's all about how you understand their situation, how you make them emotional, how you get them dreaming, and then how you sell them. The one thing with B2C is they're going to be uneducated, right? They haven't made a lot of these buying decisions before. And if they have, they've only ever made them on these type of calls, right? They've never scaled a business. They've never made 10, 15K a month. They don't actually know how it feels or what it takes to get there. So you have to do a lot of educating on B2C. They also have a lot of pain that they haven't even realized a lot of time. So it's your job as the closer to get the emotion and get the pain out of them and convert that into realizing the gap between where they want to get to, where they're dreaming, and where they are right now with their pain. Because a lot of these people will never have thought about the fact that they're actually stuck in their situation. And what you need to do is make them realize that by the questions you ask, right? So what do I mean by the questions you ask? So you need to ask them questions that you already know the answer to. So you need to ask them things like, okay, what happens if nothing changes? What happens if you keep doing the same thing? What happens if you don't make this decision? What happens if you never retire your mom? How would that make you feel? Asking them a lot of emotional questions, finding out how it makes them feel, how that affects their family, how that affects their life, right? The advantages of B2C. So the reason that you might want to sell B2C is you're really big EQ, right? So if you have a huge EQ, B2C will be easy. It's why women excel extremely in B2C, is because their EQ is incredibly higher than men. So when selling B2C, if you're trying to decide between, I don't know if I should sell B2C or B2B, if you have extreme EQ, you're very good at conversations. So you're very good at getting the pain out of people, having those deep chats, then B2C is the one for you. The advantage with B2C is extremely short sales cycles. So a lot of the time it will be one call close. So you'll be able to close people straight off the initial call, which is phenomenal for us, right? But you'll also struggle with price points. So because it's one person, it will be lower ticket. So lower ticket. You may be asking, how is this an advantage? But this ties directly into this, which makes it a one call close. So lower ticket, right? Now onto the disadvantages. Lower ticket, right? What that means is less money. Because obviously because we can only charge, let's say 1 to 10K, the most we can be making as a closer is 100 to 1K. Whereas with B2B, you'll be making a lot more because businesses have a lot more bandwidth to invest in themselves. The other thing too is, again, when it comes to these prospects being uneducated, right? So with these prospects being uneducated, what that leads to is a lot of fear, because I've never done anything like this. It also leads to a lot of trust issues. And it also leads to skepticism. Because what happens is like crabs in a bucket. So when you have a bucket and you have crabs in it, right? What ends up happening is if you try and a crab, for example, tries to climb out, what ends up happening is the other crabs grab onto it and pull it back down. And this is what happens with B2C, is the people around them will be like, why are you trying to do that? Why are you trying to get out of this? Maybe not intentionally, maybe not straight away. What ends up happening is they just end up getting pulled down. And that's why a lot of people will never be able to leave that bucket that they're stuck in with the other crabs, so to speak. The other downside of B2C is it's heavily reliant on the conversation. A lot of times it doesn't even have to be the best product. If the customer feels like it can get them there, they will buy it. And what that means is you get a lot of customers and a lot of products in B2C that are shit, that are actually horrible deliverables, and you end up with a lot of scams. So that's another big downside with B2C. Now, moving on to B2B, so business to business. The people you're going to be speaking to are very logical, right? Does it make numbers sense? So numbers is going to be a huge thing. They're also going to be experience, right? Done it before, right? Done it before. They also understand, because it's their job, right? Their job is to sell somebody something or sell a service. So they understand where we're coming from. Their expectations, they are going to expect results. They're going to understand what it takes to run a service. They're going to know what they should be getting, and they're going to tell you that, right? This brings me on my next point. They're going to be A-type. They're going to think they're better than you. You're just an employee. You're just another guy trying to sell them something. So they're going to think you're better than you, take the frame. They're going to actively try to take the frame from you, hit you with, just tell me the price, just tell me what you do. They're going to hit you with everything, right? Because they've done these calls before. They're experienced. They're logically just thinking, just tell me what it is. If it makes sense, I'll buy it. Because their expectations are that you're going to get them results and you're going to provide them with a service. So with these prospects, they're going to be A-type, you're going to take your frame, and they're just going to want to know the price and what you do. It's our job as a closer to not allow them to do that, which I'll show you in another video. The advantages of B2B, huge money, right? When I used to sell B2B, my ticket prices were anywhere from 30 to 100,000. You could not charge these in B2C because most people just don't have the capital. Whereas with B2B, you can literally scale all the way up to $1 million deals on the right offer. So there is endless possibilities when it comes to budget. Other advantages, more intellectual conversations. The conversations are going to make a lot more sense. They're going to be a lot more concise, and they're going to have a lot more logic behind them. Another advantage that you're going to get is understanding. They understand what you're pitching, right? If you pitch something that makes sense, they will buy it. B2B is a lot easier. They understand what you're doing too. So they understand the purpose of your questions. They want to help you, and they want to make sure that they get the right service. So that's the advantages to B2B. Now, when it comes to disadvantages, obviously, as I mentioned before, you're going to get heavy A-type prospects. So what does this mean? An A-type is somebody who thinks that they should be leading the conversation and they want to feel like they're in charge 24/7. So they're not going to want to answer your "how does that make you feel" questions. So what you want to do instead is you want to invoke emotion through logical questions. So asking about performance, getting their numbers from current business. So let's say they are booking 10 calls. So you'd say, okay, well, why aren't you booking 20? Right? Oh, because we don't know how. Okay. How long's that been a problem? Right? Instead of asking, how does that make you feel that you're only booking 10 calls? You're asking, how long's that been a problem? He then says, and you say, okay, well, why haven't you fixed it? Haven't found the right people. So with these people, what you need to do is you need to focus in a lot more on leading them down without it being so obvious. Because with A-types, they're not going to want to answer your basic scripted closing questions. Your other disadvantages are going to be sales cycle. It's going to be a lot longer. You're going to be looking at anywhere from 1 to 4 calls, depending on the ticket price. Obviously, you can still close people in one call. There's a common misconception that all B2B leads are going to be over one call, but that's not true. So 1 to 4 calls is going to be your sales cycle. Other disadvantage is going to be decision makers. So there's going to be a lot of decision makers a lot of the time. So there can be anywhere from 1 to 4 decision makers. That can be CEO, CFO, director, specific person. Let's say you're doing marketing, so head marketer, whatever you're doing, right? There's going to be multiple decision makers. So there's going to be a lot more objections that you can get. But I will go over how to handle a B2B call in more depth in my next video. But this is an overview of what is B2C, what is B2B, the advantages and the disadvantages.